2 days after the incident, Katie received a message that Thex was ready to see visitors. She had been dreading this moment since breaking his elbow, but she knew she had to face him. The medical bay was located in the lower levels of the station, and Katie had never been there before. The corridors were quieter down here, with soft lighting and the constant hum of life support systems. She found Thex's room and pressed the door chime. His voice called for her to enter, sounding stronger than she had expected. Thex was sitting up in bed with his right arm immobilized in some kind of energy field that glowed softly around the healing bones. His golden skin had returned to its normal color and his eyes were alert. When he saw Katie, his expression was unreadable. "Cadet Morgan," he said formally. "Thank you for coming." "How are you feeling?" Katie asked, approaching the bed carefully. "Much better. Galactic medical technology is quite advanced. The doctors say my arm will be fully healed within a week." Thex flexed his fingers experimentally. "No permanent damage." Katie felt relief wash over her. "I am so sorry about what happened. I never meant to hurt you that badly." "You are apologizing for defending yourself when I assaulted you?" Thex's golden eyebrows rose. "That is an interesting perspective. You were not assaulting me. You were just making a point about combat techniques." "I grabbed you without permission during a rest period," Thex said firmly. "In any civilized society, that constitutes assault. You had every right to defend yourself." Katie sat down in the visitor chair next to his bed. "Commander Vrex said Valorians respect strength. Are you angry that a human was able to hurt you so easily?" Thex was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. "May I ask you a personal question?" "Sure. How old were you when you learned the technique you used on me?" Katie had to think back to her childhood on Earth. "Maybe 6 or 7 years old? My father started teaching me basic self-defense when I was old enough to understand the lessons." 6 years old. Thex repeated slowly. "You mastered a technique capable of disabling a Valorian warrior before you reached adolescence." "It is." "Not that impressive. All human children learn these things. It is just basic safety knowledge." "Basic safety knowledge." Thex leaned back against his pillow. "Do you understand what you are saying? You casually describe abilities that would make you a legendary warrior among my people." Katie shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "I am not a warrior. I am just a student trying to learn about the galaxy." "That humility is exactly what makes your species so remarkable," Thex said. "And so terrifying. Everyone keeps saying humans are terrifying. I do not understand why." Thex activated a holographic display beside his bed, showing comparative species data. The average Valorian stands 8 feet tall, weighs 300 pounds, and has bone density 3 times galactic standard. We evolved from pack hunters on a high-gravity world and have been the dominant military force in this sector for millennia. Katie looked at the impressive statistics. "Okay, you are 5 feet 6 inches tall, weigh perhaps 130 pounds, and come from a species that most aliens consider physically unremarkable." Thex gestured at his immobilized arm. "Yet, you defeated me without apparent effort. I used leverage and your own strength against you. It was not about being stronger." "Exactly." Thex's eyes lit up with something like excitement. "You turned my advantages into weaknesses. That kind of tactical thinking combined with precise execution is what makes humans so dangerous." Katie was starting to understand his perspective. "You are not angry about being defeated?" "Angry? No. Humbled, yes, and eager to learn." Thex leaned forward as much as his medical restraints would allow. "I have been researching human military history since the incident. Your species' approach to warfare is unlike anything in galactic records. What do you mean? Most species fight using their natural advantages. Valorians rely on strength and armor. Zephyrians use speed and agility. Crystalline beings employ their defensive capabilities. Thex pulled up more data displays. Humans ignore natural advantages entirely. You use tools, tactics, and environmental factors to overcome any opponent regardless of physical differences. Katie thought about human military doctrine as taught in her history classes. We learned early that the biggest and strongest do not always win. Intelligence and adaptability matter more than raw power. Your species has fought wars against enemies with superior technology, better numbers, and stronger individual warriors, Thex continued. And you won those conflicts through innovation and determination that other species cannot comprehend. We also lost a lot of those wars, Katie pointed out. Human history is not all victories. But you learned from every defeat and came back stronger. That is what makes you terrifying to the galaxy. Most species avoid conflicts they cannot win. Humans enter unwinnable situations and find ways to win anyway. A new voice interrupted their conversation. An interesting analysis. Katie turned to see Alex, Ben, and Lisa entering the medical bay. Her fellow human students approached Thex's bed with expressions of concern and curiosity. "How are you feeling?" Alex asked the injured Valorian. "Much better, thank you." "I was just explaining to Cadet Morgan why her actions were so significant." "Significant how?" Ben asked. Thex gestured for them to sit down. "Your species has a reputation in the galaxy that you do not seem to understand. You are known as the Deathworld humans, warriors who conquered the most dangerous planet in known space." "Earth is not that dangerous," Lisa protested. "Humans live. They're just fine." "Earth is a Class 12 death world," Thex replied. "The gravity is crushing. The atmosphere is corrosive. The weather patterns are violent and unpredictable. The native life forms include predators that hunt in coordinated packs." He paused for effect. "And humans thrived there so completely that you consider it a peaceful paradise." The four human students exchanged glances. Katie could see they were beginning to understand how aliens perceived their homeworld. "What does that mean for us here at the Academy?" Alex asked. "It means you have responsibilities that extend beyond your individual performance," Thex said, seriously. "The galaxy is watching humanity's integration very carefully. Some species hope you will become valuable allies. Others fear you will become dangerous enemies. How you conduct yourselves here will influence those perceptions." "No pressure at all," Ben muttered. Thex smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Actually, I have a proposal that might help with that pressure." "What kind of proposal?" Katie asked. "Train with me, teach me human combat techniques, and I will share Valorian warrior traditions with you." Thex's golden eyes were bright with enthusiasm. "We can show the galaxy that different species can learn from each other instead of fearing each other." Katie looked at her friends. Alex nodded encouragingly, while Ben and Lisa seemed intrigued by the idea. "You really want to learn from us?" Katie asked. "Even after what happened?" "Especially after what happened. You defeated me with a technique I had never seen before. That makes you a teacher I need to learn from." Thex flexed his healing arm carefully. "Besides, Valorian honor demands that I either revenge myself upon you or acknowledge you as a superior warrior. I choose acknowledgement." "What would this training involve?" Lisa asked. "Cultural exchange through martial arts. You teach me human defensive techniques and tactical thinking. I teach you Valorian combat forms and warrior philosophy. Thex seemed to warm to his subject. We could invite other species to join us. Make it a formal academy program. Alex leaned forward with interest. That could actually work. Show everyone that humans can control our abilities and use them to help others improve. Plus, we could learn about alien fighting styles, Ben added. That knowledge might be useful someday. Katie thought about the proposal. It could be a way to turn the incident with Thex into something positive. What do you think the Academy administration would say? Commander Vrex has already expressed interest, Thex replied. Apparently, the idea of interspecies combat training has been discussed before, but never implemented. Your demonstration of human capabilities has renewed interest in the concept. Over the next hour, they discussed the details of what such a program might look like. Training sessions that focused on technique rather than power. Cultural exchanges that helped different species understand each other's approaches to conflict. Safety protocols that protected more fragile species while allowing effective learning. By the time visiting hours ended, they had the framework of a plan that excited all of them. Katie felt hope for the first time since the incident. Maybe humans could find their place in galactic society after all. As they prepared to leave, Thex called Katie back for a private word. There is something else you should know, he said quietly. The incident in the gymnasium has spread throughout the academy. Every species is talking about it. Katie felt her stomach drop. Are they afraid of me? Some are, but others are intrigued. Several students have asked me about human training methods. Thex smiled. You may find yourself more popular than you expect. Popular or feared. In the galaxy, those are often the same thing. The key is showing that you deserve the fear and the respect. Thex met her eyes seriously. You have the opportunity to shape how the galaxy sees humanity. Use it wisely. Katie sat in the small waiting room outside the disciplinary office for 3 hours. The walls were the same white metal as everywhere else on the station, but somehow felt more confining. A single window looked out at the stars, reminding her how far she was from Earth and everything familiar. Her hands had stopped shaking, but she could still feel the moment when Thex's elbow joint had snapped under the pressure she applied. The sound kept replaying in her mind. She had never seriously injured another person before. The combat training on Earth always emphasized control and restraint. The door finally opened and Commander Vrex emerged, followed by 2 other figures Katie recognized from Academy briefings. Director Milani was a Mindari, one of the telepathic species that helped run the Galactic Coalition. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow slightly, and her large dark eyes held ancient wisdom. The third figure was Administrative Colonel Horth, a geologian whose rock-like appearance made him look like a walking mountain. Cadet Morgan, Director Milani said in a voice like soft wind. Please come in. Katie followed them into the office. The room was larger than she expected, with a curved wall that showed a panoramic view of space. A large desk dominated the center, with several chairs arranged around it. Katie noticed that one chair was sized for humans, while the others accommodated. Different alien physiologies. Please sit, Colonel Horth rumbled. His voice sounded like grinding stone. We have reviewed the security footage and witness statements regarding today's incident. Katie sat in the human-sized chair and tried to remain calm. How is Thex? Is he going to be okay? Cadet Thex Corvani Prime is receiving medical treatment, Director Milani replied. His injuries are severe but not life-threatening. Galactic. Medical technology can repair most types of bone damage. That is good news, Katie said with genuine relief. Commander Vrex activated a holographic display above the desk. The footage showed the incident from multiple angles. Katie watched herself, break Thex's elbow in slow motion. The movement looked fluid and natural, almost like a dance step. Explain your actions, Colonel Horth commanded. Katie took a deep breath. He grabbed my arm without permission. Where I come from, that is considered an aggressive act. I responded, with a basic defensive technique designed to break free from a grip hold. You consider this a basic technique? Director Milani asked. Yes. All human children learn these skills in school. It is part of our standard safety education. The three alien officers exchanged glances. Katie could sense their disbelief even without being telepathic. Cadet Morgan, Director Milani said carefully, are you aware that what you call a basic defensive technique just disabled one of the most physically formidable species in the galaxy? I did not know Valorians were that easy to hurt, Katie admitted. He seemed so strong and confident. Easy to hurt? Commander Vrex repeated. Cadet, Valorian bone density is approximately 3 times greater than the galactic average. Their joints are reinforced with cartilage that can withstand impacts that would shatter most species. Katie felt a cold feeling growing in her stomach. But I barely applied any pressure. Show us, Colonel Horth said suddenly. Demonstrate the technique you used. Katie stood up uncertainly. I would need someone to grab my arm. I will volunteer, Commander Vrex said. The large saurian moved around the desk and extended his clawed hand toward Katie's arm. Are you sure? I do not want to hurt you too. I am curious to see how this basic human technique works, Vrex replied. Do not worry about my safety. Katie nodded reluctantly. Commander Vrex gripped her right arm with the same firm hold that Thex had used. His claws were careful not to puncture her skin, but the grip was solid and controlling. Now what? He asked. Katie went through the motions slowly, explaining each step. First, you never pull away from a grip. That just makes the attacker hold tighter. Instead, you step toward them to get inside their reach. She demonstrated the pivot step and saw Vrex's eyes widen as she moved inside his guard. Then you attack the weakest point of their grip, which is always the joints. Katie placed her free hand against Vrex's elbow, but did not apply pressure. A sharp upward strike here while using your body weight for leverage will break the joint no matter how strong they are. Physics, Director Milani observed quietly. You are using mechanical advantage to multiply your force. Exactly. My father taught me that technique is always more important than strength. Katie stepped back and Commander Vrex released her arm. Your father is a military instructor? Colonel Horth asked. No, he is a park ranger. But all human adults are expected to teach children basic survival and self-defense skills. Katie sat back down. It is just part of being a responsible parent on Earth. The silence in the room stretched for long moments. Katie could see the alien officers processing what they had just learned. Finally, Director Milani spoke. Cadet Morgan, we need to discuss something with you that was not included in your species briefing materials. The Mindari's voice was very serious. The Galactic Coalition has been preparing for humanity's integration into our society for several years now. That is good, Katie said. We want to fit in and contribute. The preparation was not entirely about integration, Colonel Horth explained. It was also about threat assessment. Katie felt the cold feeling in her stomach get worse. Threat assessment? Commander Vrex activated another holographic display. This one showed Earth from space, rotating slowly in the darkness. Text in Galactic. Common surrounded the image with information Katie had never seen before. Your homeworld is classified as a Class 12 Death World, Director Milani said. Only 4 other planets in the galaxy have received that designation. 3 weeks had passed since Katie's first day at the academy, and she was starting to find her rhythm. Classes in galactic history and xenobiology were fascinating. Fleet tactics made her think in ways she never had before. But today was different. Today was her first hand-to-hand combat training session. She walked into the gymnasium and stopped in amazement. The room was huge, with a ceiling that stretched up at least 50 feet. The floor was covered in some kind of soft blue material that felt springy under her boots. Different gravity zones were marked with colored lines on the floor. Signs in multiple languages warned students about the various settings. Other cadets were already warming up in different areas of the gym. Katie watched a group of geologian students moving through what looked like a slow-motion dance. Their rock-like bodies shifted and flowed in perfect coordination. Near them, several Valorian cadets practiced weapon forms with long crystal blades that hummed through the air. Katie found the human section and joined Alex, Ben, and Lisa, who were doing stretching exercises. They had all changed into special workout clothes that felt lighter than their normal uniforms. "Nervous?" Alex asked as Katie started her warm-up routine. "A little. I have never fought anyone who was not human before." Katie rolled her shoulders and felt her muscles loosen up. "What if I accidentally hurt someone?" "That is exactly what I am worried about," Ben said quietly. "These other species do not know how we fight." Before Katie could ask what he meant, a loud voice boomed across the gymnasium. "Students, form ranks by species for initial assessment." The voice belonged to Commander Vrex 9 Talons, a battle-scarred Saurian who served as the combat instructor. His green scales were marked with old wounds, and his yellow eyes seemed to see everything at once. He stood nearly 7 feet tall and moved with the fluid grace of a natural predator. The various species groups arranged themselves in loose formations across the gym floor. Katie noticed that most aliens gave the human group plenty of space. Only the Valorians seemed unworried by their presence. "Combat training serves multiple purposes," Commander Vrex announced. "Physical conditioning, tactical thinking, species integration, and survival skills. Today we begin with basic assessment of each species' natural abilities." He pointed to the crystalline students first. "Faceted ones demonstrate your defensive capabilities." The crystal beings moved to the center of the room and began a demonstration. That was beautiful to watch. They could change the density of their bodies, becoming nearly invisible or hard as diamond. Their movements created light patterns that dazzled the eye and confused depth perception. Next came the Zephyrians, who showed incredible speed and agility. 7 and the others moved like dancers, leaping and spinning through the air with impossible grace. Their chitinous shells could deflect most impacts, and their multiple limbs gave them advantages in grappling. The Valorians were impressive in a completely different way. Thex led his group through combat forms that combined strength, reach, and natural armor into a devastating fighting style. Their movements were precise and powerful. Katie could see why they considered themselves the premier warrior species. "Humans," Commander Vrex called out. "Your turn." Katie felt every eye in the gymnasium focus on her and her 3 companions. They moved to the center of the room and looked at each other uncertainly. "What should we show them?" Lisa whispered. "Just basic stuff," Alex replied quietly. "Nothing too impressive." They ran through some simple exercises they had all learned in school back on Earth. push-ups, sit-ups, basic punching and kicking combinations. Katie could feel the disappointment. From the watching aliens. After the exotic demonstrations from other species, humans looked almost boring. Acceptable conditioning, Commander Vrex noted without enthusiasm. Now we move to sparring exercises. Each species will work with partners from their own group to avoid injury from biological differences. Katie partnered with Ben while Alex paired with Lisa. They began with light contact drills, focusing on technique rather than power. Katie found herself holding back more than she expected. Even her gentle touches seemed to rock Ben backward. "You can hit harder than that," Ben told her during a break. "I know you are trying to be careful, but this is supposed to be training." "I am hitting as hard as I think is safe," Katie replied. "You do not realize how much stronger we are than most species here." Across the gym, she could see other species engaged in their own training. The crystalline beings moved like living art, flowing around attacks and countering with precise movements. The Zephyrians were almost too fast to follow, darting in and out with lightning strikes. But it was the Valorians who drew the most attention. Thex was sparring with another member of his species, and their combat looked brutal by galactic standards. They struck each other with enough force to crack stone, relying on their natural armor to absorb the impacts. After an hour of training, Commander Vrex called for a break. Students dispersed around the gymnasium to rest and hydrate. Katie found a quiet corner and sat down on a bench to catch her breath. "Disappointing?" said a familiar voice behind her. Katie turned to see Thex approaching. His golden skin was barely damp with sweat despite the intensive training. "What is disappointing?" Katie asked. "Your species' combat demonstration. After all the stories about Deathworld warriors, I expected something more impressive." Thex sat down on the bench next to her without asking permission. "We were told to keep it simple for the assessment," Katie replied. "Or perhaps the stories are exaggerated?" Thex studied her with his golden eyes. "You move like you are afraid to hurt someone." "I am afraid to hurt someone. These are our classmates, not enemies." Thex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Combat training requires commitment. How can you learn to protect others if you will not risk harming them in practice?" Katie felt her temper rising. "There is a difference between training hard and being reckless." "Is there?" "Show me." Before, Katie could ask what he meant. Thex stood up and grabbed her right arm. His grip was firm but not painful, designed to demonstrate his superior size and strength. It was exactly the kind of controlling hold that Valorian warriors use to subdue smaller opponents. "This is how a real warrior establishes dominance," Thex said loudly enough for nearby students to hear. "Physical superiority combined with tactical positioning creates—" He never finished the sentence. Katie's response was instantaneous and came from years of training that started when she was 5 years old. Her father had taught her that if someone grabbed your arm, you never tried to pull away. Instead, you stepped into them. She pivoted on her left foot and stepped forward with her right, moving inside Thex's reach. Her free hand came up and struck his elbow joint while she used her body weight to create leverage. The Valorian's own strength worked against him as physics took over. The crack was loud enough to be heard across the gymnasium. Thex screamed and collapsed to his knees, clutching his right arm. The joint that had seemed so sturdy was now bent at an impossible angle. His golden skin had gone pale, and his eyes were wide with shock and pain. Katie stepped back immediately and dropped to one knee beside him. Her training kicked in again, as she checked his pulse and breathing while calling out for medical assistance. "Medic! We need a medic over here!" The gymnasium had gone completely silent. Every alien student was staring at the scene with expressions ranging from shock to terror. Commander Vrex arrived first, moving faster than Katie thought possible for someone his size. "What happened?" the Saurian instructor demanded. "He grabbed my arm," Katie said simply. "I responded defensively." Commander Vrex looked down at Thex, who was still conscious, but clearly in severe pain. The Valorian's elbow was definitely broken, probably in multiple places based on the angle. "You did this in response to a simple grip hold?" Vrex asked. "He grabbed me without permission during a rest period. I reacted instinctively." Katie's voice was calm, but she could feel her heart pounding. "I did not mean to hurt him this badly." The medical team arrived with a hovering stretcher. They carefully moved Thex onto the device while administering pain medication. As they prepared to transport him to the medical bay, the injured Valorian looked up at Katie. "How?" he whispered through gritted teeth. "Leverage," Katie replied quietly, "and your own strength working against you." As the medical team carried Thex away, Katie became aware that every alien in the gymnasium was staring at her. The fear in their eyes was unmistakable. She looked around for her human classmates and found them standing nearby with expressions of concern and understanding. "Are you okay?" Alex asked quietly. "Physically, yes. Otherwise, I am not sure." Katie looked down at her hands. They were steady, but she could still feel the moment when Thex's elbow had given way. "I barely touched him." "That is the problem," Ben said softly. "We forget how fragile everyone else is compared to us." Commander Vrex approached them with his yellow eyes fixed on Katie. "Cadet Morgan, you will report to the disciplinary office immediately following medical clearance. This incident requires a full investigation." "Yes, sir," Katie replied. As she walked toward the gymnasium exit, Katie could hear whispers starting up behind her. The words were in multiple languages, but she caught enough to understand. Deathworlder, predator, dangerous. Katie woke up to the sound of Seven's morning prayers. The Zephyrian made soft musical tones that reminded Katie of wind blowing through tree branches back home. She lay in her bed for a moment, listening to the alien sounds and trying to remember where she was. Then the reality hit her. First day of classes at the Galactic Military Academy. She rolled out of bed and grabbed her uniform from the storage unit. The clothes fit well enough but felt strange against her skin. The fabric was made from some kind of synthetic material that never wrinkled and always stayed the perfect temperature. Katie missed her old cotton shirts from Earth. Seven finished, praying, and turned to look at her. "You seem nervous, Katie Morgan." "Just excited, I guess." Katie pulled on her boots and checked her appearance in the small mirror. "I want to make a good impression." "Your species always wishes to be accepted by others?" Katie thought about that while she brushed her teeth. "Most of us do. We are social creatures. We like being part of groups. Even groups that fear you. Especially those groups. Fear usually comes from not understanding something. Once people get to know us, they realize we are not so scary." Katie hoped that was true. She had never been the only human in a room before coming here. They walked to the dining hall together. The space was enormous, with tables arranged in sections for different species. Katie noticed that most aliens sat only with their own kind. A few mixed groups existed, but they were rare. She got her food from the human section of the serving area. The Academy had done their research and provided meals that humans could actually digest. Katie was grateful for anything that tasted remotely familiar. She chose something that looked like scrambled eggs and toast. Seven led her to a table near the center of the room. A few other species were already sitting there, including 2 more Zephyrians and something that looked like a living crystal formation. Katie sat down carefully and tried not to stare at her new companions. "Everyone, this is Katie Morgan, my human roommate," Seven announced. "Katie, these are my clutch siblings, Two Whistle Click and Nine Song Wind. And this is Facet of Light Through Prism, a crystalline being." The other aliens made various greeting sounds. Katie smiled and nodded to each of them. "Nice to meet you all." Facet of Light spoke in a voice like breaking glass. "We have never spoken with a Deathworlder before. Do you really eat living creatures?" Katie nearly choked on her eggs. "Well, yes, but not while they are still alive. We cook them first." All the aliens at the table went very still. Katie realized she had said something wrong. "You consume other living beings for nutrition," Nine Song Wind said slowly. "Even though your species has developed advanced technology, most humans do not hunt anymore. We raise animals specifically for food, like cows and chickens. They live good lives, and we make sure they do not suffer." Katie felt like she was digging herself into a deeper hole with every word. Two Whistle Click made a sound, like a small explosion. "Your species practices systematic breeding and termination of other species for consumption purposes?" "When you put it like that, it sounds really bad," Katie admitted. "But humans need protein to survive. Our bodies evolved to get nutrients from both plants and animals. We tried to make it as humane as possible." The table went quiet again. Katie ate her synthetic eggs and wondered if she should find somewhere else to sit. Then Facet of Light made a sound like wind chimes. "This explains much about human military effectiveness," the crystalline being said. "Your species has industrial-scale experience with efficient termination methods." "We are not killers," Katie said firmly. "We are farmers. There is a big difference." "Is there?" asked a new voice from behind her. Katie turned to see a tall blue alien standing near their table. This creature was nearly 8 feet tall with smooth skin that seemed to glow slightly. Its ears were pointed and its eyes were golden. Katie recognized the species from her briefing materials. This was a Valorian. "Thex Corvani Prime," the alien introduced himself with a slight bow. "I could not help but overhear your conversation about human dietary habits." "Katie Morgan," she replied, standing up to shake hands. The Valorian looked down at her extended hand with confusion. "Your species exchanges physical contact as a greeting?" Thex asked. "It is called a handshake. It shows that we are not carrying weapons and that we trust each other." Katie kept her hand out waiting. Thex reached down and carefully took her hand in his. His skin was warm and his grip was strong. Katie shook his hand normally, then let go. The Valorian stared at his hand afterward like he was surprised by something. "Your grip strength is significant for such a small being," he observed. "Thanks, I guess." Katie sat back down. "Would you like to join us?" Thex looked around the table at the other species. "I do not usually associate with herbivore species." "We are all students here," Katie said. "Species does not matter as much as what we can learn from each other." An interesting philosophy from a predator species. Thex remained standing. "Tell me, human Katie Morgan, how many beings has your species killed in warfare?" The question hit Katie like a punch to the stomach. She had studied human history before coming to the academy. "The numbers were not pretty. Too many," she said quietly. "But we learned from our mistakes. That is why we joined the Galactic Coalition. We want to use our abilities to protect people, not hurt them." "Noble words," Thex said with what might have been sarcasm. "But can a predator truly change its nature?" Before Katie could answer, another human voice spoke up from across the dining hall. "Hey, Katie, over here." She turned to see Alex Turner waving at her from a table near the windows. Alex was from the European colonies and one of only 12 humans at the academy this year. Katie felt relieved to see a familiar face. "Excuse me," she said to the group. "I should go say hello." She picked up her tray and walked over to Alex's table. He was sitting with two other humans she recognized from the shuttle trip: Ben Parker from the Australian territories and Lisa Chen from the Asian Federation. "How is your first morning going?" Alex asked as Katie sat down. "Interesting. I think I may have scared my roommate's friends by mentioning that humans eat meat." Ben laughed. "Yeah, that tends to freak out the herbivore species. Wait until they find out about our history of warfare." "Someone already asked about that," Katie said, glancing back at Thex, who was still standing near the other table. Lisa followed her gaze. "Valorian warrior caste. They think they are the toughest species in the galaxy because they evolved from pack hunters on a high-gravity world." "Are they?" Katie asked. "Compared to most species, yes. Compared to humans?" Alex shrugged. "Let us just say there is a reason Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, and their home world is only Class 7. Katie looked around the dining hall at all the different species eating their breakfast. Most of them seemed so peaceful and civilized. It was hard to imagine any of them in combat situations. "Do you think we will have problems here?" she asked quietly. "Probably," Ben said. "Humans have a reputation for being unpredictable. Some species admire us for our military record. Others fear us. And some, like the Valorians, see us as competition." As if summoned by their conversation, Thex appeared at their table. His golden eyes studied each of the humans carefully. "I am curious about something," he said without preamble. "Your species claims to desire peace, yet your homeworld is covered with weapons and military installations. How do you explain this contradiction?" "Easy," Alex replied. "We prepare for war so we can maintain peace. It is an old human saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. Your people study warfare even in peacetime. Every human learns basic combat skills and survival techniques," Lisa said. "It is part of our education system." Thex's eyebrows raised. "All humans receive military training?" "Not military exactly," Katie corrected. "But we all learn how to defend ourselves and survive in dangerous situations. It is just considered basic knowledge, like reading or mathematics." "Fascinating," Thex murmured. "A species that trains every citizen for warfare while claiming to desire peace." "We train every citizen to protect themselves and others," Ben said firmly. "There is a difference." Thex smiled, and Katie noticed that his teeth were very sharp. "Perhaps we will have an opportunity to test that difference during combat training exercises." The human students exchanged glances. Katie could feel tension building between Thex and their group. She decided to try diplomacy. "We would be honored to train alongside Valorian warriors," she said carefully. "We could probably learn a lot from each other." "Indeed," Thex agreed. "I look forward to seeing what Deathworld training produces." He walked away, leaving the four humans sitting in uncomfortable silence. Katie watched him go and wondered if she had just made their situation better or worse. "That could have gone better," Alex said finally. "Or much worse," Lisa pointed out. "At least he did not challenge anyone to single combat." "Is that a thing?" Katie asked. With Valorians? Unfortunately, yes, Ben replied. They settled disputes through formal duels, usually non-lethal, but not always. Katie looked around the dining hall again. Suddenly, the peaceful academic atmosphere seemed much more fragile. She was beginning to understand that integration into galactic society was going to be more complicated than anyone had expected. Katie Morgan stepped off the transport shuttle and felt her boots touch the metal floor of the Galactic Military Academy for the first time. The station was huge beyond anything she had ever seen. White walls stretched up so high she could barely see the ceiling. Bright lights made everything glow with a clean blue color. The air smelled different here, recycled and filtered through systems she did not understand. She pulled her single bag higher on her shoulder and looked around. Other new students were walking past her. Most of them did not look human at all. A tall blue creature with pointed ears walked by without looking at her. Its skin was smooth like glass, and it moved with perfect grace. Behind it came something that looked like a giant bug walking on two legs. Its eyes were huge and black, taking up most of its head. Katie had seen pictures of alien species before coming here, but seeing them in person was different. They seemed so calm and confident. She felt small and out of place. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her clothes were basic Earth military style. Everything about her screamed that she was new to this galactic society. A group of reptilian beings passed near her. They had green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to glow. She heard them whispering in their own language, but caught a few words, in Galactic Common. One word made her freeze. Deathworlder. They were talking about her. She kept walking down the main corridor. More aliens moved around her. Some floated instead of walking. Others had too many arms or legs to count quickly. A few looked almost human, but their skin was wrong colors or they had extra eyes. Each species seemed to know exactly where they were going. Katie checked her data pad again to make sure she was heading the right way. The walls were covered with displays showing information in dozens of languages. Most of it was in Galactic Common, which Katie could read well enough. She saw announcements about class schedules, meal times, and safety rules. One display showed a map of the station. It was so big that Katie realized she would need weeks just to learn her way around. She found the dormitory section after walking for 20 minutes. Her room was number 847B. The door opened with a soft hiss when she pressed her hand to the scanner. Inside, she found a space that was larger than her. Room back on Earth, but still felt cramped. There were 2 beds, 2 desks, and 2 storage units. Everything was made from the same white metal as the corridors. Her roommate was already there. The creature looked like a large praying mantis, but with more colorful patterns on its shell. When it saw Katie, it made a series of clicking and whistling sounds. Then it switched to Galactic Common with a voice that sounded like wind chimes. Greetings, human Katie Morgan. I am designated Click Whistle 7 of the Zephyrian Collective. You may call me 7 if the full designation is difficult for your vocal cords. Katie smiled and set her bag on the empty bed. Nice to meet you, 7. Just call me Katie. 7's large, compound eyes studied her carefully. You are from the planet Earth, the Death World. Is that what everyone calls it? Katie asked as she began unpacking her few belongings. It is the official classification, Class 12 Death World. Most species cannot survive there for more than a few minutes. The gravity is too strong. The atmosphere is too dense. The temperature changes too quickly. And the predators? 7 paused and made a chittering sound. Your world has predators that hunt in packs and can kill creatures many times their size. Katie laughed. You mean like wolves? They are not. That's scary once you understand them. Seven's eyes got even wider. You have encountered these predators personally? Well, yeah. I grew up in Colorado. We had bears and mountain lions around our house all the time. My dad taught me how to scare them off or hide from them if I needed to. The clicking sound Seven made seemed nervous. Your species considers this normal childhood education? Pretty much. Every human kid learns basic survival skills. How to find water, build shelter, avoid dangerous animals, that kind of thing. Katie pulled out a picture of her family and set it on her desk. It is just part of growing up on Earth. Seven stared at the picture. These are your birth parents and siblings? Yeah, Mom, Dad, and my little brother Jake. Katie looked at the photo with a smile. Jake is only 14, but he can already track deer through the forest and start a fire with wet wood. Dad says he is a natural at it. Your offspring learn to hunt before reaching maturity? Seven's voice got very quiet. Katie realized she was making her roommate nervous. We do not really hunt much anymore. Most humans just buy food at stores now, but we still learn the old skills in case we need them. You know, for emergencies. Emergencies? Seven repeated the word slowly. What kind of emergencies require hunting skills? Oh, like if you get lost in the wilderness, or if there is a natural disaster and the stores close, or if the power goes out for a long time. Katie shrugged. My grandfather lived through some tough times when he was young. He made sure our whole family knew how to take care of ourselves. Seven was quiet for a long moment. Then it asked, how many humans have died from predator attacks in your lifetime? Katie had to think about that. In my town, none that I can remember. Maybe a few hikers got attacked by bears in the mountains, but they usually survive if they know what to do. Most predators on Earth avoid humans now. We are too much trouble for them. They fear your species? Sort of. We taste bad, and we fight back hard. Plus, we are really good at working together when something threatens us. Most animals learned a long time ago that it is easier to hunt something else. Seven made more clicking sounds. Katie was starting to recognize it as a sign that her roommate was thinking hard about something. Katie, Seven said finally, do you understand why other species at this academy may be nervous around humans? Katie sat on her bed and looked at Seven seriously. I am starting to figure it out. Everyone keeps calling us Deathworlders like it means something scary, but we are just people trying to learn and fit in. Your people defeated their homeworld so completely that you forgot how dangerous you are, Seven explained. Most species barely survived their evolution. We adapted to our worlds by becoming smarter or faster or better at hiding. Humans adapted by becoming better at everything. You can run for hours without stopping. You can see in almost complete darkness. You can survive injuries that would kill most of us. You can eat foods that are poisonous to other species, and you can kill with your bare hands. But we choose not to, Katie said firmly. That is what makes us human. We could hurt people, but we decide not to. Seven's antennae twitched. That choice is exactly what terrifies the galaxy. A species that could destroy everyone but chooses to protect them instead. No one knows what might make you change your minds. Katie looked out the small window at the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there was Earth, spinning in its lonely orbit around a yellow sun. Her people had crawled and fought their way up from caves and forests to build ships that could cross the galaxy. They had learned to be strong because they had to be. but they had also learned to be kind. "I guess we will have to show them," she said quietly. One day at a time. 7 made a sound that might have been agreement. Outside their room, the station hummed with activity as hundreds of young beings from across the galaxy prepared for their first day of classes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new chances to prove what humanity really was. Katie just hoped she was ready for it.